do still have people. Good evening. Welcome to the November 29th, 2023 special meeting of the town of the Fairfield RTM. I'm Marcy Spolier, the moderator, and this special meeting is being held entirely via WebEx. Members, please make sure you unmute yourself when speaking and are muted when not. Will the clerk take the roll?
Ken Astorita.
Here.
Peter Britton. Melissa Longo.
Here.
Brooke Sparacino. Tara Cook Littman. Amy O'Shea. Dave Rock.
Amy's trying to join. She'll join momentarily.
Thank you.
Dave Rock is
Dave
here.
Rock.
I'm here.
Thank you. Chris Shea.
Here.
Tara Cook Littman
Mike
is
Cardigan.
here.
Thank you. Mike Hardigan.
Here.
Jeff Steele.
Here.
Melissa Strauss.
Here.
Cindy Waldron. Laura Carson.
Here.
Michelle McCabe.
Here.
Marcy Spolier.
Here.
Liz Esma.
Here.
Josh Garskoff.
Here.
Kristen O'Neill.
Here.
Sharon Pastilli.
Here.
Jay Wolk.
Here.
Jennifer Barahona.
Here.
Rob Blanchard.
Here.
Nancy Dunn.
Here.
Andy Graceffa.
Betsy, it's Nancy Dunny.
I'm sorry.
Andy's trying to get in on the conference call, Betsy.
Steve Barretts.
Here.
John Delgado.
Here.
John Kuhn.
Here.
Scott Nickel.
Here.
Carrie Burcham.
Here.
Chris Carroll.
Here.
Colin Colburn.
Here.
Christine Ludwiak.
Here.
Drew Georgiadis.
Here.
Lisa Avy,
Here.
Karen Wackerman,
Here.
Matt Ambrose, Justin Contrato,
Here.
Margaret Horton,
Here.
Peter Ratsky.
Here.
Thank you.
Betsy, are you the host for this meeting? Are you able to let people in from the waiting room?
I don't know how to do that.
Is there anyone from IT on the call?
No, I called FairTV to get the meeting started.
Okay. Unfortunately, there's some people in the waiting room. I'm going to continue. I don't know if anyone's able to reach out to IT.
Marcy.
How many
Tara
people
is
did
in.
it? Tara's in. Great. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So I'm going to
Betsy,
continue
it's
with the
Peter
meeting. We're going
Britton.
to. Great. If you came late and you not sure if the clerk got your name, just put it in the chat.
Okay.
And we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before moving on to the next agenda item, I'll indicate that my preference for good order is to ask that anyone making motions or wishing to comment indicate so in the chat, which is down to your right, bottom right. That way I'm able to see everybody in the order which they want to comment, because I cannot see all 40 members at one time. We're going to move on to item number 2. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that a bond resolution amending and restating a resolution entitled a resolution amending and reinstating a resolution entitled a resolution appropriating $2,377,000 for the purchase of vehicles and equipment for the Department of Public Works and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation to add equipment to the Exhibit A, B, and hereby is approved. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Pasilli, seconded by Representative Georgiadis. I believe Mr. Schmidt is online to give us a summary of this item, hopefully. I didn't see.
I'm here.
Oh, wonderful. Mr. Schmidt, can you just give us a little summary on this?
Sure. This is an easy one. If you remember, for those of you who are here, back in I believe it was March of this year, you approved and authorized DPW to purchase 3 years worth of large equipment. All this amendment is doing is adding one piece of equipment to that. It's not going to cost any additional money. There's been savings over the last 3 years and also in this year that allows them to add this item to the list of things that they can purchase. This one in particular, this is particularly important because it involves the line of sight along roads, which could impact and could have a detrimental effect on bikers and pedestrians walking because of overgrown vegetation along the road. So what this piece of equipment will do, it's a what's called an over the rail mower, and allow them to clear away some of that overgrown vegetation to make it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. There's no additional funding here. It's just adding this one item to the list.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Is there any discussion or questions on this item? If you have representatives, if you have a question, just put in the chat that you want to be recognized. I'll give a minute just to let everyone type in the bottom right hand. Representative Carson.
Through you, Madam Moderator, to Jared. Laura Carson, District 4. So, Jared, is it just for the vegetation on the ground? Would it ever be trees that are high up? Because I notice a lot of times I'm driving and I can't see like down the street, like on Fairfield Woods Road. There's overgrown trees that prevent the light. You can't see the traffic light. Is there anything for that? Do you know, or is this equipment able to do that too?
I'm not an expert in this, but I suspect that would be a different piece of equipment that they probably already have. That would be something that would allow them to get up higher and trim those trees to allow visibility of traffic lights. This is more for things that are, lower, probably about the height, maybe a little bit higher than the average person, and allow them to cut that vegetation.
Nice. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Representative
Yeah.
Carson. Is there any other questions or discussion? Representative Ambrose, can you mute yourself? Is there any other questions or discussions on this matter? If you have any, please put it in the chat. I'll give it a minute just to make sure. Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries. Moving on to item number 3, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond resolution entitled a resolution appropriating $973,090 for the cost of pre-construction services for phases 2 through 5 of the air conditioning upgrade project at various schools and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation be and hereby is approved. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Carson, seconded by Representative Garskoff. I believe Angeles Papageorge is online, hopefully, to give us a brief overview of this item.
I am here, moderator. What you have before you is as you all are probably aware, the Board of Education is looking to add air conditioning and means of fresh air to all Fairfield Public Schools. What you have here is the funding needed to bring phase 2 through 5 up until documents ready for bid. This would allow us to get best pricing and to know what the projects are going to move forwards costing for each of the buildings. It was asked by the Board of Finance that we get these done and in line so that we have better idea of pricing moving forwards, and that's why this is before you tonight.
Thank you. Is there any questions or discussion on this item? If you do, please put it in the chat. Representative Kuhn.
John Kuhn, District 7. Mr. Papageorge, question for you regarding, have we looked at any, maybe it's too late for these projects. This will sort of be a broad question for the next 3. Have we looked at ground source heat pumps for this? For the HVACs? Am I echoing?
A little bit. I can tell you that I can tell you that all sources are looked at. The building, these projects are assigned to a building committee by the First Selectman's office. So they do hold public meetings, so you're welcome to attend or give input at those public meetings. But they do look at all resources available when trying to figure out the best way to move forward with these projects.
I think Sustainable Fairfield maybe has been at these.
I do believe they've had some input on that. I did actually see some emails just as late as today between them and the building committee.
Okay, I reached out about this to them earlier today.
All right. Representative Wolk.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Congratulations again. And John, that's a pretty cool background. Anyway, I have a comment. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Being on the RTM and being an advocate for air conditioning in our schools for so long, this to me is just a blessing that this is finally coming into fruition, and this is going to happen because it's been really a nightmare for not only the students, for the teachers too. So I'm totally in favor of this project, and I want to thank you for taking on this job. It's not going to be easy. I mean, how many schools are on the list that don't have air conditioning? Does anybody know how many schools you're going to be doing? Is it 15? I mean, I know Stratfield School was done, thank goodness. I know partially the Ward High School is done, so you don't have to do all the schools. But I do know, like, one of the schools, Fairfield Middle School, doesn't have air conditioning when that school was built, which a shame, because I think it's going to cost a little bit more now than it would have been if they would have put it in at the time they were building the school. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for everything. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Representative Wolk. Representative Strauss.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening. Melissa Strauss, District 3. I have a question. Are the air conditioning units energy efficient, and has a cost determined on how much the air conditioning units would be run in each school and who would be paying for those costs?
So, as I mentioned, the building committee is working through that. They do take every type of air conditioning, every type of equipment, the most effective out there, the most energy efficient out there. They take all that into consideration. They work with the engineers on these projects, so they do that. We actually do have a company on board as well, which is called Watchwire, who we use to monitor our utilities. And one of the things good about this company is when we take on projects like this, they can go in and actually help with estimating costs of running this equipment. So it is a very good tool that we have, and we continue to work with them as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Strauss. Any other discussion or questions on this matter? Hearing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 4, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond resolution entitled a resolution appropriating $1,048,706 for the cost of the Roger Sherman Elementary School boiler burner replacement project and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation be and hereby is approved. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Nichols, seconded by Representative Horton. Mr. Papageorge, do you have a summary of this or anything to add to this?
So this project is to replace the 2 current dual burn boilers at Roger Sherman Elementary School. This was on our waterfall for the following year, but due to the condition of the current boilers, we felt it urgent to move them up so that they get replaced this coming summer. Just like the air conditioning projects and the one that just happened at Burr this past summer, we will be looking at the best efficient equipment out there. One of the things we are also going to look at, like we did at Burr, is instead of going with a dual burner system, a single burner system, because they tend to be more efficient and cleaner energy. So we will be looking at those options as well for this one. there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Papa George. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. Seeing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? This motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 5, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that a bond resolution amending and restating a resolution entitled a resolution appropriating $3,653,150 for the cost of various Board of Education capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, to increase the appropriation and bond authorization by $1,061,000 to a total of $4,714,150 be and hereby is approved. Do I have a motion to approve? Representative Zezima, seconded by Representative Havey. Mr. Papa George, last summary for the night.
Last summary for tonight. So this is, if for those of you who were here on the RTM last year, we came before you for the money authorizing to do a bathroom renovation project at Ludlow High School. During this time, we've done investigations. We've gone through. We snaked and piped and cameraed all the existing water lines and sewer lines in the building. Once that was completed, we went out to bid. The bids came in higher than expected, so this is an adjustment for the bid. It's about a third more than what we had asked for last year to get this project completed this coming summer.
Thank you. Is there any questions or discussion on this matter? Representative Garskoff.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Josh Garskoff, District 5. Mr. Papa George, can you speak to whether this was driven by inflation or what was discovered in the pipes, or maybe both? Can you comment on that?
It was, I would say a lot of it was driven by inflation and cost of materials. There was some pipe discovery that will have to be addressed, but I would go with the majority of this was inflation and cost when the bids came in higher than expected.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all and have a good
Moving
evening.
on.
You too.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Proctor. Moving on to item number 6.
Madam Moderator,
Here-
I move to waive the reading of the item.
Thank you, Representative Weckerman. Do I have a second to move the reading of the item? Seconded by Representative Horton. All those in favor of moving the reading, say aye.
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 Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll move on to item number 6. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Silly?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have put it in the chat. My apologies, Madam Moderator. I would like to propose the amendment to item 6.
Yeah, do you have the amendment?
I have it. Yeah. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so to hear, consider and act upon a resolution approving the transfer of fiscal year 22 to 23 revenue surplus. Resolved that the town hereby authorizes, approves, and directs the transfer of the fiscal year 22-23 revenue surplus as follows. The portion of the financial year 22-23 surplus resulting from actual revenue amounts that were more than budgeted revenue amounts, revenue surplus, shall be appropriated to the debt service reserve account.
Great, thank you. So Representative Pistilli is making a motion to strike item number 6 and substitute with the language as approved by the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. Is that correct, Representative Pistilli?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Representative Wackerman? Okay, great. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion to strike item number 6? Representative Steele, do you have a question on the
I had a question on the main. I just had a question on the main motion. But while we're on the amendment, are you striking and replacing? I just want to make sure I understood that.
Yeah, striking and replacing. Yeah.
Versus just amending.
I was told that we were supposed to strike and replace the whole thing versus amending it. I don't think it's amending anything.
But aren't you just adding some language? Can you just clarify again what you were amending? It wasn't clear.
No, we're not. We're not adding it.
what
We're
you're
taking
changing.
away. We're striking the entire item number 6. Because that language allocated specifically to items, and this is just appropriating it to the debt service.
Okay.
And that's what was approved at the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance level. Unfortunately, when the special meeting had to be called, this language wasn't yet approved by that yet. So that's why it got changed before it got to us.
Okay.
Any other questions of that, Representative Steele?
No.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions regarding the motion to strike and replace? Seeing none, we're going to take that to a vote. So we're now voting on Representative Pistilli's motion to strike and replace with the wording that she said. Does anyone need me to replace the wording that we're replacing item number 6 with, to repeat it? Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion to strike and replace has been approved. So now we'll move on to discussion on the item as it is on the table. And I have Mr. Schmidt here again to present to us on that.
Thank you. And I'll just give a quick background on this. We had as of right now, we're projecting a $9.8 million surplus in the fiscal year 23. There's 2 pieces to that. One piece is the surplus related to expenditures, where we spent less than what was budgeted, and that's $4 million. And then this piece, which is the surplus related to revenue, where, as is stated, that the revenue was greater than what was budgeted. And so effectively what this resolution as amended does is it takes that $5.8 million in revenue surplus and effectively parks it. The town has done this in the past. It parks it in this debt service reserve account, debt service reserve fund, for future use to be determined. And this was to give the new administration some time to review options for the pros and cons of different possibilities and alternatives for how that money could be used. And so this kind of just sets the money aside, and at a future time, it can be allocated to whatever purposes are determined.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Any discussion or questions on this matter? Representative Esterita. I can't see you, Representative Esterita, to know if you're on mute. No, we can't hear you. Just make sure you're not double muted, meaning your phone and the WebEx. I can't hear you, Representative Estrada. If it's okay, I'm going to move on to Representative Steele, and maybe you can look at, oh wait, type your question. I'll read it off. Representative Estrada wants to make sure that the funds don't necessarily have to go to the debt service. Mr. Schmidt, will you answer that?
That's correct. I'll confirm that. And as I said, this has been done multiple times in the past where there's been a surplus, and there may not be at that time a designated place and where to spend that money. And so this is where a typical place where the town reserves this funding to be spent other places in the future, but it's certainly it will not be used for debt service unless action is taken in the future for it to be used in that manner.
Thank you. Representative Steele.
Hi, Jeff Steele, District 3. Through you, Madam Moderator, to Jared. So was some of it going to debt service and paving, or I'm looking at the motion. I just want to make sure I understood that.
So that was the original.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the original resolution, and that's why the whole thing was struck. Because there was originally going to be $2 million that was specifically dedicated to paving, but instead the Board of Finance made the decision that they didn't want to make that commitment at that time, and so the entire amount of the $5.8 million will be going to this debt service reserve.
Was there any consideration in a tax refund to citizens for some of it?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Steele, or Representative Steele. Representative Shea, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. Just, I'm new here, so pardon the question perhaps, but I'm just wondering if we're bonding all these new expenses and at a cost, an interest cost to the taxpayer, why wouldn't we use some of these excess funds to pay for equipment without needing to bond it, or pay down some of our debt that we already have?
It's a really good question. And I think those will be considerations over the next, couple of months, as the administration and Board of Finance decide what to do with this money. Those are possibilities. They could be used, as I mentioned, one of the options was to use this money use $2 million for paving. That would have helped us with our debt related to paving, and would have preempted the need to borrow that $2 million for paving. So that would be an option. There are other items within the town's capital plan that I think the administration and Board of Finance will look at in the future to determine how that money will be spent, and if there are alternatives within our capital plan that money could be spent on. There are other alternatives have been talked about to set that money aside for what we know are going to be some pretty hefty Board of Education capital projects, whether it's related to the HVAC project, future HVAC projects, or renovations to some of the schools. So you bring up a couple of alternatives, and those will be two that will be considered among a slew of other ones.
Thank you. Yeah, I just
thank you, Mr. Smith.
I know we also have potential very large expenditures at the Penfield Pavilion, and I'm just fiscally wondering about those sorts of things. So thank you very much for your answer. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Representative Shea. Any other questions or discussion on this matter? Representative Brock.
Yeah, I'm just also new and just trying to understand history a little bit. Can Jared, can you give me just a brief understanding of past surpluses in other administrations and maybe what happened to those numbers? Can you give me an idea of like a number, and then was it also applied to debt service?
Yeah, I can speak to the last 3 years, in which case the most of the debt service or most of the surplus was specifically earmarked for fill pile and contamination expenses that the town knew were going to be hitting or were hitting at the time. So there was the majority of those surpluses were set aside for those purposes.
But so we're looking at 5.8. Were there bigger numbers or smaller numbers in the past?
So, for example, in the FY22 surplus was over $10 million. I know that 8.4 million of that surplus in FY22 was set aside for Penfield, and ended up being approved and authorized for the Penfield renovation. There was another smaller portion of it, approximately 1.3 million, that was reserved for the most part in the same manner as what's being proposed to you tonight. That is just being put into the debt service fund to be determined how that money would be used.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Representative Brock. Any other questions or comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. And it looks like that we've concluded all the business for the special meeting, and now take a motion to adjourn. Representative Pastilli, seconded by Representative Welk. And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.
And we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.